Welcome to the Inner Compass podcast with a gentleman I got to know through WhatsApp group. And I thought he was a fantastic individual, and we talked beforehand. And I really don't know him, but I think he has interesting things to tell us. And his name is Noel Watkins. Now, Noel, at the very moment you're in London, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah,
Right, but you
yeah,
live in Leeds, you just told me.
yeah.
So
Yeah, near to Leeds, just
near to,
outside Huddersfield.
okay. Now, you tell me a little bit about yourself because you told me that yesterday you had like 3 sessions of storytelling. You were like a storyteller, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I've been a storyteller since 1998. So I've been doing it for 28 years, and
Wow.
my background is in primary education. So I've been a teacher since 1991. So I don't teach anymore, but I taught for over 30 years with children from the ages of 4 to 11. And while I was teaching, a storyteller came into my school, and I was sitting there listening, and all the children were sat there and they were looking at the storyteller and they were going, and I realized I was sitting there going, and it was just magical. And I thought, this is really powerful. This is somebody just standing there and using spoken word, and yet they're taking us all on a journey into our imaginations. And I was being affected emotionally by the story. So yeah, I went away and I trained at Emerson College, which is down south. It's near the Ashdown Forest, in East Sussex. Really beautiful place where they train the Waldorf teachers, the Steiner teachers. And I went for a weekend first, then I did a 3 month course, The Craft of the Storyteller, and it was magic. I loved it. I really loved it. And after that, I looked for opportunities to tell stories in my own school, and eventually got a big break whereby I got working in 9 or 10 inner city schools using storytelling to raise writing standards amongst the children. But of course, we started off with oracy, inspiring them by telling different folk tales, myths, and legends, and then giving them the opportunity to become the storytellers and story writers.
Great. That's fantastic because, I my background is a trained actor. So I'm a trained actor. And I've done a
Mm,
lot of theater and a lot of television and movies in Holland. And
mm.
And I got to realize, hence my T-shirt for you,
Oh yeah, yeah. Theater in the rough.
Theater in the
Nice.
Rough, it's Mr. Shakespeare. Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with Shakespeare. And,
Yeah.
and I realized that everything and anybody and anything is a story.
Yes. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And what I've learned from my 61 years on the planet is that actually we're writing our own books. We are the creators of our own story.
Okay.
So once you get to that place within yourself whereby you've done your shadow work, you realize actually it's through my thoughts and the choices I make that I decide on what story I create for myself. And of course, some of us are born into more difficult circumstances, and therefore we have more shadow work to do. But we all have shadow work to do.
So
And when
so
we
what
embrace
do you
all of that,
understand? What's your your explanation. What's your definition of shadow work? And maybe you can give an
ah,
example, because not many
yeah,
people
okay,
do know what that is.
yeah, okay. Well, in my understanding, it's to do with Jungian psychology, and it's to do with those negative thoughts we can have around things, and that then creates limiting beliefs. And those limiting beliefs are based on fears we might have, and we can become fearful about things, and then we don't even try them. The self-talk is so negative that we don't even try, and we can have these limiting beliefs in lots of different areas in our lives to do with our professional work, to do with our relationships, and what we have to try and do is we have to try and challenge these thoughts and check whether or not, they're true. Or if it's to do with conditioning we might have in our family, where we've had people who've been quite negative and put us down, and we've begun to believe in that narrative. So they've created a sort of story and we've bought into it. And what we need is we need good friends and people that love us who say, well, that's not actually true, Noel. It's not true that you don't have skills and talents, or it's not true that you're not kind-hearted. So yeah, the shadow work is anything that holds us back. It's particularly limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs. And what we have to do is we have to accept we're thinking that, and then we have to think, okay, well, can I think differently? Can I shift the way I look at things?
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I totally see that, and just until shortly, I didn't know that was shadow work, but I've been shadow working my whole life then.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And for me, the question lately, the last couple of maybe 10, 15 years, has been the question, you know, if there is a belief system in me, yeah, that then creates an
Mm,
emotion, because an emotion won't come out of nothing. It comes out of a belief system.
mm,
Now,
mm,
is that belief system, as you said, is that truly mine, or is it been
mm.
programmed into me, right? And I
Yeah,
always ask
yeah.
myself, and I feel usually here and in my belly, yeah, not in my head. And I ask the question, is this what I'm believing and emotionally responding to? Is that
Mm,
a resistance to existence, or is that a
hmm.
flow with existence?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
it's the plus and the minus, and I try to keep it really simple,
yes.
And if it's a resistance to existence, I need to figure out what is that belief system that
Mm,
created this emotional reaction to this situation, so that other information, I call that from the higher self or the soul or
yeah,
God or however
yeah,
you call it, won't
yeah,
come in because you block it with that negative emotion.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a fascinating approach. I think we all go on these journeys, and it's to do with childhood conditioning, and it's the influence our parents might have on us
Sure.
if they haven't done their own work, and then it's our own life experiences and how we look at them. But what I now do is I look at every challenge as an opportunity. And sometimes I think, right, the guys who are really testing me right now, they're doing a frequency test on me. So, I've just had something happen to me. It's like yesterday, I mislaid my wallet, and I was at Soul Wellness Hub where I was doing the storytelling. And one of the thoughts was, oh God, I'm not going to be able to go to London. If I don't have my wallet, I don't have my credit cards, I'm stuck. And I thought, okay, I'm hearing that, but I'm not going to buy into that. I'm just going to proactively go to all the places I've been and search. And I searched several different places. I asked a few people. I was still a little bit anxious, and I thought, no, keep working on it. Trust. And then because I'd been in lots of different places, I put things down in lots of different places. And finally looked in my rucksack, and there's my wallet. And I'm thinking, okay, dealt with that. Fine. I'm sorted. So we are going to have fear and anxiety come up. It's
Yeah.
just how we
So
respond to it.
that's
Don't
a,
react, respond.
right. So it's a fantastic story because, what we just determined, what is the shadow work, there is a big part missing, and you just said what that is. And that is that once you have done that shadow work, you do need to take action upon your new thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most
Absolutely.
people, they fall off the cliff because they don't want to take a new action.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. It depends on how strong the limiting beliefs are and how much fear they create in you. Because The
That's
fear
great.
can freeze you.
Yeah.
But once you can name what's going on, you realize, okay, well, that's just a thought. That's not actually me. That's just a thought. It's like a rain cloud. It's a dark cloud that's moved across the horizon. Okay, well, I can either sit underneath it, or I can just realize, well, that can shift. That can shift, especially if I take action to address what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
So it's that being mindful.
That's why I think that Nike, with their sentence, just do it,
Yeah,
especially with the athletes, encapsulates the whole action towards it. You can just do it because athletes
yeah,
always run into their own walls of limitations. But with these shoes, just do it.
yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
it's totally brilliant there.
What I like about what you've mentioned there is, we're thinking about running shoes there, and it's about if we're stuck, just take a first step. Take a
Correct,
first step,
correct,
and then once you take the first step, you
correct.
gradually build momentum
Yeah, and
because
this
you give yourself positive feedback
right,
as you're doing
and
it.
the step should be always, will that make me happy?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
yeah,
if it doesn't, yeah, get away from it.
yeah, exactly. So that in
Or
biodanza, which is the other thing I work with, which
oh
is
yeah.
this dance system, we work with feedback. So, I've taken that move. How does that feel for me? That's what you're saying here. How does that feel? Is that aligned with greater life? Is that aligned with my heart? Does that feel right in my gut?
So wait, because you also are a biodanza teacher, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. Biodance the facilitator. That's right.
Facilitator. So this is new for me. Yeah, I've never heard of a biodanza facilitator. So you just
Yeah,
started to
yeah.
explain, but please explain us what that is and where it comes from, and
Oh,
then,
okay.
and then let's see how we move on with that because I'm very interested in that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, biodanza or biodanza comes from Chile. It's a system of human integration. So yoga is a system of human integration because it works with breath, it works with asanas, it works with meditation. In biodanza, you work with music, you work with different types of movement, a lot of dance, but it's not just dance, and you work with the power of the group. So you start in a circle, you end in a circle, you dance on your own, you dance with different people. It's not choreographed movement, it's natural human movement. So we walk. Walking is really good because it integrates the three centers. It integrates instincts with emotions and thoughts, and it's coordinated. So it's a natural movement that is just good for us. And then we respond to different types of music, and we work with lines of our humanity. We work with our vitality, our creativity, our affectivity. Affectivity is emotional resonance. So we're responding to all of the different emotions that arise with us. We work with sexuality, but in a mindful way. And you have to have an integrated group for sexuality because you need to learn about boundaries and consent. And we work with transcendence. So in the whole system, you work with both identity, because your identity is reinforced through feedback from other people. And you also work with transcendence, whereby you're letting go of that sense of self in order to merge with a greater whole, with a source, with God, whatever you wish to call it.
How old is this technique? Biodanza? Who?
Uh, yeah, the system was created in the late 1960s. It was developed through the 1970s. The man who created it was called Rolando Torre Araneda. He was trying to find a way to help people who had mental illness. He saw that they were being heavily medicated. He thought, well, what do we do throughout the world in order to feel good? Well, we dance, we sing, we connect in groups. And he thought, well, I'll explore that. And first of all, he used calming, soothing music, and it made all of the patients worse. And then he thought, well, I need to do the opposite. I'll use rhythmic music. And he found the rhythmic music, it brought people back into their bodies, out of their thoughts, and into the moment, into what's called the vivencia.
Wow. Wow. Well, great. I mean, do you teach that still?
Yes, oh, absolutely. I absolutely love it. I'm building up my classes in West Yorkshire at the moment.
Wow, that yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I'm sure that
It's really good fun. It's really
yeah,
good
no,
fun.
I can see that
Playful
because
element.
you're moving with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's about connecting with your authentic
yeah,
movement.
with your authentic and you know, there's such a shame around dancing. So many people like in discos. I had a friend who would always, he was so gorgeous. He would always stand against the pillar in the disco, never danced. Yeah, but because
Ah,
he was so gorgeous and he was super shy, the women would come to him, you know, and then, you know, he would every night he would go home with another one. But I always told him, if you start to dance, you know, you know, you express yourself and you will have such a joy in your life. And no, 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 no. You know what I'm saying? And
mm,
and eventually, and we're in our 17, 18 years old living in Amsterdam, right? And he's a really, really good friend, really, really good friend. And I moved away to America for a couple of years, and then I saw him when I came back, and we kind of drifted apart because he got so much deeper into that shame and into the negative thought, I don't feel good, that guess what he did? He hang he
go
hang
on.
he hang himself.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah. And I'm
Oh,
telling
that's
you this story
awful.
because he hang himself, and usually when people hang themselves with the neck, it means that you know you can't express yourself.
Mm.
He couldn't
Well,
express
yeah,
his
because
he couldn't
yeah,
express his
well, because
emotions.
yeah, because you're closing off your throat chakra, and of course he's entirely stuck in his head, isn't he? You know,
Yeah.
it's like when you don't do the body work, you can't free yourself of the oppressive nature of your thinking.
No.
So, you know, it goes to what we were talking earlier about shadow work. He wasn't accepting the thoughts he was having. He was
No.
trying to push them away.
Uh,
And what you've got to do is you've got to accept them and say, okay, well that's part of who I am too.
yeah.
Um,
So when I was young, I would talk also, you know, spiritually. It's a shitty word, but in higher spheres, you know.
yeah,
And then he would look at me and says, "Please, Vicar Willem, you know, shut up."
yeah.
I
Such
go,
a shame.
"Yeah, it's a shame." Yeah,
It's
but you know,
and that's
everybody has his own way of dealing with life and his own kind of a destiny that they create themselves, and they
yeah,
are free to do that.
yeah. When that goes back to what I was saying earlier about how we actually create our own narrative. We're all writing our own book, our own story, but when we become conscious that we're actually choosing certain things, then life opens up to us,
Yeah,
you know. And
yeah,
I mean, I've been on very challenging journeys myself. I've had three descents into the underworld. So I'm using storytelling language here. So, you know, Hades land. So I've been into the land of the dead. And I was in the land of the dead when I wouldn't deal with my shadow, when I wouldn't accept things, or when I wasn't in alignment with who I am. And a few times in my life, I forgot who I was. And so I had to go into the underworld and to sit there for a while and be there for a while. And this is depression, you know, this is what's commonly called depression. And I went into those spaces when things in my outside world didn't kind of correlate with my inner world, or my inner world was creating a certain outer world. And what I found was I emerged from those spaces when I began to be authentically myself again. And some of them were to do with relationships I had. Um, One was to do with really forgetting about the skills I bring and why I'm here on the planet. And why I'm here on the planet is to help people express their humanity. And I do that through storytelling because storytelling connects us to all the sorts of experiences we have as human beings, you know, love and longing and all those sort of things, challenges we face. And dance, the biodanza is also about connecting with people. It's about connecting with people. It's about seeing everyone is a unique individual who has a part to play in the collective. And I think this is really important going forward in the times we live in, that we need more and more unique individuals to stand up and to do their part so that we can create a whole new way of living, which is sustainable and which honors the planet. And
Right.
biodance is big on that.
So I would agree, but I always, you know, define it a little bit differently. I think
Hmm.
we don't need people to stand up. I think we need people to go inside themselves.
Yeah, but that's good. The standing up comes from when you've gone within
Correct.
yourself.
Right.
Be-
That's what you mean, I
be-
know, but you need to go
yeah,
inside
yeah.
yourself. And when you're
Oh,
inside,
absolutely,
if you don't,
absolutely.
then yeah,
Mm, and you could argue that when I had my resets, when I had my long dark nights of the soul, that's exactly what I was doing.
sure.
I was
There,
taking time away from day to day life,
well, right.
and yeah,
I mean, it would be very strange if anybody on this planet hasn't gone to the dark night of the soul, of their own soul or their own experience for some
yeah,
reason, you know? I mean, I
yeah,
remember being 17, completely where you were. You call that Hades. I would call that Hades as well. Yeah, I never called
yeah,
it that way, but it sure is Hades. And I would look in the
yeah,
mirror,
yeah,
and there was one thing I knew for sure. I wouldn't commit suicide, but the rest was just one big, total negative nothingness.
yeah, 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 yeah. I totally relate to that, and in my last period of depression, which lasted about 4 years after my second marriage broke down, I knew I wouldn't commit suicide because I had a son. And I thought
Okay.
I can't do that. I mean, I felt worthless because I wasn't being who I was meant to be, but I forgot. And it seems ridiculous now that I forgot that I'm a storyteller and that I'm a biodancer facilitator. And I isolated myself. And that's the other thing that's torture for me because I love being around people. I find other human beings fascinating. And I also care deeply about other people. So if somebody else is going through a tough time, I try to be compassionate because I know how it feels.
Sure.
But you can't shift somebody out that space. They have to
No.
decide when they're going to come out,
Yeah.
because we all have our own process.
Yeah. So, so, first a question and then another question. Okay. The first question
Uh-huh.
is, the first question is, do you think that um, when we lay down our body, do you have an understanding of where we're going? That's one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to answer that one first?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I believe that we have a soul which kind of passes on. What's really interesting is it's like we have different identities in each lifetime we live, but there is perhaps something about our soul that remains the same. And I can't really totally explain that because it's quite complex, really. But yeah, I don't believe that when we die, we physically leave this body, that our essence is totally lost. I think it can go on and it can be reincarnated again. It's a big area of conversation, this one, because you're getting into like,
Let's not go
I
into
don't know
the
if I believe in
conversation of yes, no, just what your intuition says. Yeah, that's all.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, I believe, I certainly believe that there is something beyond this current life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I heard someone, one of my teachers that I studied with in America, say that the soul is the library of all your lives. And I really, and I
That's
like that.
nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. What that immediately makes me think of is that sometimes if you're spiritual, you can call upon the schools of wisdom. And the schools of wisdom are all of those enlightened masters who've walked on the earth, people like Jeshua and Buddha, or Mary Magdalene, or Sophia, or Lady Queen Yan. And Who are they? Well,
We're
maybe
here,
they're historical.
Lady Queen Yan here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You and me, we were meant to talk, weren't we? It's like it's just fab, isn't it? It's such good fun.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so you can call upon them
yeah.
when.
Well, if you're having doubts about things or you feel you want some support, but it's really important when you call on them, it mustn't be purely for selfish reasons. So if you feel you have a life mission or you have particular gifts to give, that's a time when you could ask. And it's to say, I'm not certain about this or something else. Um, can you guide me? Can you give me a sense of what's the right thing to do? And then I believe in synchronicities. I believe when you're on your path in life, you end up meeting the right people. Hence, you and I having this conversation now.
Yeah, it's the
We,
magic of life.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I think you operate or you kind of you're on a certain frequency and you meet other people on that same frequency, and then we open doors to one another.
Great. It's absolutely true. I believe that, or believe, I sense that. I know that, you know.
Yeah.
So the second question then is, yeah, is that can you take me in your, what happens in your mind if you are creating a new story, let's say for people that are depressed?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what
Well,
happens in your mind, and how do you create a story? Because you're a storyteller, so you have a paradigm somewhere, somewhat,
yeah.
somehow. So try to explain us what that is.
That's a really big question. That's a really big question. I mean, storytelling is full of archetypes. So an archetype is how could you describe? Well, you've got kings, you've got queens, you've got orphans, you've got poor boys, poor girls. Then you've got the monsters. So these all represent they can represent emotional states or fears. So the monsters are usually about fears that we have to face. And, there are different ways in which the heroes and heroines in the stories deal with those things. And usually in traditional tales, there's a journey. So there is a need, or there's a problem that has to be solved. And then the hero or heroine will go on a journey. And on that journey, they usually encounter people who can become helpers who might give them gifts. And those helpers and the gifts that are given help them to then deal with the challenges they face. And through doing this, there's a transformation. So you can start off with a particular challenge or difficulty, and you go on the journey and you face the challenges. And at the end of it, you're not quite the same any longer. And I found this true in my own life. Um, so yeah, stories are a very, very powerful way of helping us to understand our own journey. And if you're talking about, depression or something, one of the things I'm planning to do is I'm planning to create a longer story, maybe lasting 60 minutes or an hour and a half, using traditional tales and part of my own biography, to particularly help men, because men find it difficult to talk about mental ill health. And I want to kind of bring it into the light of day and say, actually, a lot of us struggle at times, and it's part of being human. It's like Rumi says, this being human, and he talks about the guest house and how different things come knocking on our doors, and we have to let it all in and accept it all, because if we do that, then we transform it. And that also relates to gene keys.
To who?
So
What case?
gene keys, this is another system that helps us to understand who we are. And when I was talking about shadow in gene keys, you have shadows, gifts, and cities. And this is a system associated with Richard Rudd, which was based on human design. That's another system. So I hope I'm not baffling everybody, because I'm talking about a lot of different things here, but I've studied a lot of things in my 61 years, and these things have made a big difference to me. And now I just want to share them. You know,
Yeah.
what tools work for me? I hope this can help other people.
No, for sure. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So would you say that out of all of your angst and anxieties and
Mm.
and depressions, you went on a spiritual journey because you said enough is enough and I need to get out of this. So you found all
Mm.
of those, I call them tools, yeah, all the
Mm.
tools, and they're amazing tools. I use different tools than you use, but they're tools,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
believe that that once you really, really get to understand who you are, and I will not go into that, then all
Yeah.
the tools will fall away and you just be.
Yeah. That's true, actually. I suppose they become so deeply embedded within you that you're not
Yeah.
even aware that you're doing them, but you just do them naturally.
Yeah.
So your whole mindset changes, your attitude to challenges changes as well. You know, you see a
Yeah.
challenge as something enjoyable. You
Yeah.
know, oh, you're testing me here. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Test my frequency. Let's see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And,
And it
and
gets confusing because we live in a plus minus in a paradoxical world. Yeah. So
absolutely.
so when you're in this state, you can read a sentence, just be, and when you're
Mm,
17, and then you go, the fuck. And then you need
yeah.
60 years for tools to understand that one sentence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's funny, isn't it? It's like youth is wasted on the young because unless you're brought up by conscious parents, you've got so much shadow to work with. So I kind of, I finally feel as if I'm arrived now.
So
So
so I'm not sure if that's the case, yeah, because I wasn't brought up by conscious parents, but at age 7 I
yeah,
became conscious of all kinds of stuff. And so it's
yeah,
innate. It's innate, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah, it is.
I don't
I think actually what happened,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually think what happens is the youngest children still have the connection, but school and certain parental attitudes mean they disconnect from their inner knowing.
Yeah.
So that's
That,
the other thing I want to do. I want to change the education system. So we're not filling children up like they're empty
dude, I'm
vessels. Usually
waiting
we're
for
filling them up with
you.
loads of nonsense
Change
stuff.
it already. I have two kids here, 11 and 9. You know, I am right now, I'm not very technical, but I am vibe coding. I don't know if you understand what that means. Yeah. But
I can guess.
so I am coding, but it's been done for me, and I'm prompting, and I see the code working, and I'm creating all kinds of stuff. And I'm creating, I'll
Yes.
let you know later on what I created, you know, big, small things, bigger things. But I'm doing this so I can teach my kids what their future is. Because in the school system, they're
Mm.
not doing it.
Oh no, you know, I taught for 30 years as a mainstream primary school teacher and I loved the kids, but the system was killing me because there were things in it. I thought, why the hell am I teaching this? Why am I not teaching the children how to be human beings? Why are we constantly lecturing them instead of actually listening to what they have to say? You know, we take away the children's creativity. It's like Sir Ken Robinson said.
Totally.
He said education actually destroys creativity. And he's absolutely right. You know, he
100%.
was a real leading thinker in that area and he
Yeah.
was ahead of his time. And I think more and more people now are listening back to what he said before he died and saying, he just knew, and
Yeah.
he was so clever as well the way
But
he
You,
passed on his
but the
knowledge.
kids, but the kids need to read, learn how to read, and they do need some
Oh,
sort of
oh
mathematical
absolutely.
system,
Oh,
you know. So how,
Of
so,
course. I mean,
so how are you
I'm
going to
not
teach
arguing.
that? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, it's got to no. It's a combination. It's a combination of basics, because of course there's a need to read and write and communicate, and there's a need to be numerate, and you might argue there's a need for other scientific knowledge. There's a need for all sorts of expression. So it's a combination of some of the things we're doing now and teaching on what it is to be human. How do we deal with our emotions? How do we relate to people? How do we connect with nature and honor nature?
But
How do we grow our
how
children?
can that be integrated in a system of teachers who are unaware people?
But yeah, but well, you have to start with the teachers, don't you?
That's
So,
right.
and there's plenty of conscious people, and there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of conscious people who care about children.
Oh, yeah.
So, so we work with them,
Yeah.
and
So,
and
that's correct. Because I always say, oh, the world, people come to me, oh, the world is this. I said, yeah, you watch too much TV, you read too much newspapers, because that's the whole idea. But I'm
absolutely,
telling you, as much as there's this way, as much there is that way, and you don't
yeah,
get to read about it, that's your search. You need to find that out. But
yeah, yeah,
it is two ways, yeah. It's not only one way. So don't
that's
fall
true.
into that trap.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and what we actually need, I mean, if I'm going to get all Buddhist on you, we need the middle path.
No, always.
So the education needs to be partly
Oh,
scientific, and
totally.
we need some kind of grounding, but
Totally.
we also need the spiritual. I mean, this is what Steiner talked about. You know, if you look at Waldorf schools and Steiner education, he had that spiritual dimension,
Yeah.
but his system is also not appropriate for the 21st century because
Yeah,
it's a bit technophobic. You know, it's a
you know,
system that's 100 years old. You know, and where does the technology lie in that? And of course, it's great to be working with natural things, and we should, but we also need to embrace the fact we have technology and we need
sure.
to know how to use that in a way that's good for our humanity.
Yeah, 100%. Steiner, Steiner was a very, Rudolf Steiner was a very aware educator.
Mm,
And my kid, who is the second kid, who is, um, you know, we would call that mentally disabled because he can't sit in a classroom
right.
for the first primary school. So we brought him to a Steiner school. We went to all kinds of schools, and
Yeah.
I was feeling no, 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 because they were trying to put a system on it, and he didn't want the system. And then in
Yeah.
Steiner, and I didn't know much about Steiner. Of course, I knew about him, but they told me, okay, so the first year we're not going to teach him anything. I said, what do you
Yeah.
mean? No, no, no letters, no, nothing. I said, okay,
Yeah.
so what are you going to do? I said, he is going to lead us.
Great.
And I said, I looked at my wife and I said, on the spot, I said, he's going to school here.
Yeah. 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 I
No,
mean,
no,
what that speaks to me of is the children's own genetic potentials. So the system at the moment treats the children as if they're empty vessels that need filling up, and adults decide what the children need to learn. A lot of the time, the people that actually create the curriculum are not even teachers, they're politicians, and they're
well put.
creating it so they can solve things.
Yeah, well put. How did you put it? Genetic what? It
Genetic potentials.
Yeah, you see,
So,
that's exactly how I see it. He came in with a set of genetics, and that's his potential. And
yeah,
we need to work with that. And that's all it is. Period.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And increasingly, we've had more and more children who are born who, at some level, know who they are, and they won't accept having a system imposed upon them. And some of them go silent, and some of them refuse to go to school, and some of them misbehave because they're actually not being met.
Yeah, and it's called evolution because we're going back to the source.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because a lot of these young people are conscious,
Very.
so they know who they are, and therefore, if you put them in a system where they can't be who they are, well, what do?
Yeah,
They rebel.
yeah.
Good.
No,
It's
no,
right that they
absolutely. Yeah.
rebel. It's
So,
not their
so,
problem.
so, so the whole system, parents, we all need to have an enormous amount of patience. What do you say about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Patience. Yeah. So you can get workshops and all sorts of things, can't you? You get workshop on building your confidence, but patience is kind of the least sexy of all the virtues. And a workshop on patience would work like this. So everybody would be gathered. They've been convinced finally that's a good idea. So they're sitting there and they're waiting, and 5 minutes goes past. and then 10 minutes, then 15. Everybody's looking at the watch and thinking, actually, did we get the time wrong? And then 20 minutes goes past, and they're getting more restless now and a bit annoyed, actually. 25 minutes. And then eventually, after 30 minutes, the teacher comes in, and they all look at the teacher and they say, what time is this then? And he said, well, this is a workshop on patience, isn't it? So I thought we'd get straight into it immediately. I got that from actually some storytellers, and they actually made us wait and wait and wait. And I'm not sure if they were meant to be teaching us patience, but it was hilarious. And actually, we did realize as they started the joint storytelling that that was part of the messaging, that it was kind of playing with our minds. But yeah, patience, so important. And patience is also to do with being in feedback. It's about, and I'm doing it myself now, it's about pausing. So somebody has given you some feedback. Maybe you didn't like it. Quite often when somebody gives you feedback you don't like, you react. You feel hurt. Oh, that's not true. No, that's just not true. That's really unfair. And
Yeah.
so you fire straight back at them. Whereas if you take a pause and you breathe into it, you can make a more conscious choice about how you respond. And it might be, actually, if you listen in, there may be some truth in what they're saying. It might be the way they've said it is not very pleasant. Or you might decide after having thought about it, actually, no, that's just their stuff. That's not actually true. But it could be it has some truth in it. And that truth is feedback. And all feedback is valuable because feedback is a biological function. If you look in nature, everything's in feedback with everything else. And because we're all interconnected, we need to understand the nature of that. And it's about, this is Richard Rudd again, pausing. Pause. Breathe.
Well, what the pause and the patience do in conjunction is they are creating a space for you to become aware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So instead of responding from a conditioned place,
Correct.
you're responding from a place of awareness and consciousness.
And usually when you spend immediately from a conditioned place, that criticism, and especially it's not a criticism, it's a reflection of who you are. That's all it is. Is usually when you react immediately and very, very mad and angry, is usually true.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And this is then to do with mirroring. It's because we meet people in our lives who are there, actually. They turn up in order to help us understand something about ourselves.
That's all it is.
And in biodanza, going back to biodanza, we dance with people and we fire up mirror neurons and we learn how to lead and how to follow or to respond. And every person you work with opens up a different aspect of who you are. So it's fascinating, and the movements are really simple.
Fantastic. But you kind of lost me. I heard what you said, but you kind of lost me at firing your mirror neurons.
Yeah. Okay.
What is that?
So that is when somebody does something using movement and that opens up something within you. So this is, once again, it's a biological thing. It's to do with resonance. I mean, I can't explain that very deeply. I understand it in terms of a practical experience. When we're doing biodanza and people are dancing together and one is taking the lead, the other can follow that movement. And it depends on how open the person is as to how well they can follow the movement. If you're quite fluid and you're mutable, then you can copy somebody else's movement. Whereas if you're not very open, if you're a bit rigid and fixed, you might see the other person's movement, but you might not physically be able to copy it, or you might not want to. That's the other thing. You know, some
Sure.
people like to be in charge and they want to be
Sure.
in control and they don't want to follow somebody else.
Sure. No, no. Just in the nature of rebels being a rebel. Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah. You know, this.
that's
Yeah, go ahead.
that's why no one system is going to work for everybody.
No, of course
You
not.
know,
No, you need to find your tools. It's like this always reminds me of when I started out being an actor. I studied this. I studied Grotowski. I studied Stanislavski. I studied the method. I studied all kinds of, acting tools. Yeah, because I'm, I was very good looking, but I wasn't really a good actor. Yeah. So I thought, okay, so if I will be cast on my good looks, I will come far. But if I bang it as an actor, I might actually get a career going. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I
yeah,
realized that, and then I found a teacher in America who would come to Amsterdam and teach us, and he was big. He was a big teacher. He made Patrick Swayze had in his class. Jane Fonda was
right,
in his
right,
class. Yeah, and he was like when he walked in, I was like, what? What have they been teaching me all those years in those schools?
right.
And this guy just explained, but he was a very, very aware person, yeah. And he
Yeah,
was in the middle of it in the 80s. He was
right,
also he followed Bhagwan, for instance. And Bhagwan, Osho, very aware person, made a lot of people super aware. So he integrated that. And then he said at one point, because we were all confused at one point, trying to find his way, yeah. And
yeah,
some people would flow with it, and others would really fight it. And he would
yeah,
look at anyone, because they would go to him, you,
yeah,
how actors can be. And he was very calm, and he looked at him and says, if my tool doesn't work, find another tool. I don't
yeah,
really care which tool you use,
yeah,
but you need
yeah,
to find your tools.
yeah, yeah. That's so true, isn't it? And when we think about the human integration systems we have available to us, some people prefer Tai Chi and Qigong, and some
Correct.
people prefer yoga. And I would say, although it's not recognized as a human integration system, that is exactly what biodanza is. People think it's dance. It's much deeper than that. It's much, much deeper than that because it really transforms you. And I'm not saying that dance can't transform you, but biodance has a deep theoretical model underneath it about what it is to be human and about the sacredness of life. And this is because Rolando Toro Araneda was brought up in Chile where there was revolution and he saw a lot of his dear friends being murdered. And
Yeah.
he thought, this is terrible.
Terrible.
This, life has no value here. And what's the most important thing? Life. Life is the most important thing, you know? And so he challenged a lot of the orthodoxies, the splits that religions cause, because of the ways of thinking that are involved in some of them. Um, yeah, remarkable, remarkable man, not without his flaws, because everybody has blind spots. And the system he created wasn't entirely created just by him. There were many other people that also made a big difference. So I think that's important that that's said. I think very few
Well,
systems are created
yeah,
by a single
great.
person.
But I mean, I can lay a spark in someone's mind and they can run with it. And
Yeah.
then another person can run with it. And another
Mm,
person can run with it. And then all of a sudden it becomes mainstream. And we don't
mm,
really know where that spark then eventually came from. And that's
yeah.
why you
Yeah.
said, we're all one, which is, I've heard someone say, and I think it's one of the most gorgeous sentences that we as humanity need to understand. It's the one is the all, and we all are the one. Did you hear
I
that?
temporarily lost you there, Willem. I
Okay,
lost you
so
there.
so fantastic. Maybe it's not for your ears.
Universe says don't bother with that bit.
Anyway, the one is the all, and we all are the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you say
Yeah,
yeah, but you say that to people who are not aware. They can't even fathom the paradox of it.
yeah, yeah. I come back to Richard Rudd there. Richard Rudd is brilliant on paradoxes. Really, really fantastic
Yeah,
system.
yeah, you send that in the WhatsApp group, and I looked at them and I said, for me it was about ABC, yeah, because I'm living that, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
yeah, but for people who don't understand paradoxes, and that you first have to understand paradoxes. So what's this guy's name? Because people can look him up.
Yeah,
He's
Richard Rudd, genekeys.com.
Gene
And
Keys,
gene keys, as in genetics, Gene,
Gene
and then
Keys
keys, keys dot
dot
com.
com. Okay, Gene dot
And you
com.
can
And
get a
this
free,
guy, he,
chart.
he talks about paradox because if you don't understand paradoxes, then you won't understand what you just said, like half an hour ago, that you need to balance everything.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you don't understand the paradox, then you don't understand how to balance.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. It's like, how can we be individuals and yet fit perfectly into a society? It's like, see, we have to have a degree of mutability. So it goes back to that old saying of know thyself. That's a start, isn't it? Know who you are because you've been in feedback with yourself. You know what brings you joy and pleasure and what you're passionate about. And for me, that's the key to living a happy life.
And
Find out what your passions are.
that is the key. It is the key. There's it follow your passion, follow your excitement. That's the key.
Yeah,
And whatever mirrors back when you take action upon your excitement and you don't like it, don't think,
yeah,
don't think, and don't say this is not what I asked for. Look into it because that is
yeah,
a
yeah,
belief system that you need to take care of in order to go move on to that action to be
yeah. I,
fulfilled.
I, I got some really amazing feedback recently, and it was really difficult because I'd been at a workshop and I was really, really keen to do an announcement um, about moving forward with biodanza in the UK, which is still relatively unknown. So I'd been on the workshop and I hadn't had a chance to do the announcement about wanting more people to be part of the association to drive things forward. And I just wasn't being allowed to do it. So we got to the end of the workshop and I thought, I still haven't done this announcement. So then I do the announcement, and then afterwards I got really heavily criticized. And it wasn't so much about the fact that I wanted to share, it was because I was too loud. And I thought, right, I was too loud. And then I thought, okay, that might be true. I'm a teacher. I know how to make loud announcements so that everybody hears. And of course, I wanted everyone to hear, but it was as if it wasn't appropriate there and then. So I changed it around yesterday. I was doing storytelling outside and I'm in the cafe. Everybody's having private conversations. I thought, well, the kind of rude way to do it is to kind of just loudly kind of shout it out. And I thought, well, no, when I did that before, I got criticism and rightly. So I wrote down on a piece of paper about the fact I was doing the storytelling. I just went round quietly while people were talking. And I kind of just stood there until they looked up and then they read it. So it was still getting the message across, but it was working in a different way to meet my need, but not to be so intrusive. And some of the people came out and some of them didn't because they were happy doing what they were doing. So it's like,
Sure.
can we learn from the feedback we get to work in a way which is going to get a better response from more people?
Yeah, 100%. I always look at, for me, one of the most intelligent agents on this planet is water
Mm,
and a river.
yeah.
Yeah? And a
Yes.
river gets stuck, yeah, or it puts a log stuck behind an island in the river. but it
Yeah.
will move it, and the river will always follow the path of least resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a
so what you just did in my mind, yeah, is that you got stuck with your log behind, and the river told you, no, you need to go somewhere else. So you wrote it on a piece of paper. Perfect. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
you're as flexible as the most intelligent uh, element on Earth, which is water.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And if you think about the different states in which water can be, then it shows you how flexible it can be. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
liquid
Also.
state,
Yeah. Yeah.
gaseous state, and solid
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and water's yeah, and
yeah.
water's very, very powerful though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
very
super,
powerful.
super
Think of
powerful.
what water can do,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
I mean, it's kind of a philosopher's stone, yeah. That the philosopher's stone in the Middle Ages, that they were looking for how to make lead out of gold, but maybe it's the water
Yeah,
itself. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
That thing about alchemy is very interesting as well,
Yeah.
isn't it? And whether
Eventually,
it,
yeah. Now,
yeah,
eventually, I think I think the philosopher's stone is Joshua creating himself as a Christ and teaching
mm,
us that
yeah,
we are Christs within our own personality, so we can have that philosopher's stone and the knowledge. The philosopher's stone is the
mm,
knowledge to transmute and transform.
yeah,
And
absolutely. I really believe in that whole notion. It's like, so where is God? Well, God isn't something that's outside us. He's not some guy set up there in heaven on a cloud. And it's not a guy either. It's, maybe,
he might be, but he's not the real God.
yeah, well, yeah, and they're getting into very deep philosophical territory here, aren't we?
Yeah, he might
This,
be.
this, yeah, well, who knows? She might be.
Well,
So,
it as as Christ in his Nag Hammadi Gnostic knowledge says that the whole cosmos is created by Sophia, which was a she out
yes, that's
out of
right.
the
The
monad,
feminine,
you know. So she's totally
yeah,
feminine, correct. And there is a
yeah,
false god, according to him, which is called Yaldabaoth. Okay, but that's a whole
right,
different
yeah,
subject. So
right,
it's
yeah,
very, it's like wow, you're it's so confusing for younger people to, and also for old people who've never thought or studied anything about this, what is true and what's not true. And in these times where nothing is true anymore because it's all
yeah,
fake, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, really.
yes,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I saw
yeah,
someone
yeah.
I saw someone say, here's a trick. You ask someone, are you AI? I don't know. Put up three fingers. Put
But
up three
me
fingers.
now.
Yeah,
All right, okay, right, yeah,
three. And now, great. Now go back, put up one finger.
right.
That's how you can see, because AI, they will start to argue. Now, is that necessary to show you? They start to argue.
Ah, okay, right. Fascinating. I didn't know about
Fascinating. I was like, wow, that simple?
that. Shall I tell you, Willem? I've got to tell you, there's going to be a problem with this podcast. Shall I tell you why? Shall
Tell
I tell
me.
you why?
Yeah.
Because we're agreeing with one another too much. Traditional things. It always has to be an argument, doesn't it? And a heated discussion where both sides get really angry with the other person.
You
Which
know,
is that's the old paradigm
yeah,
where everything's got to be an argument.
it's fantastic that you say that, because me starting out as an actor and an artist, I am from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You had to suffer to be an artist. And I always
Yeah,
said, no, you don't.
yeah,
No, you don't.
yeah,
You have
yeah,
to tap into your creative. You don't have to suffer to create.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
this is the same here. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I think probably we end up suffering anyway when we're doing our shadow stuff. You know, we've got to feel into lots of different things, and we've got to challenge the narrative we have in our own head. And you know, we've talked about that earlier on in the first of these two sessions. We talked about that narrative
Yeah,
and how
no
it's to do
doubt,
with
no
conditioning
doubt.
and all the
There's
rest of
no
it.
doubt that you are born, you will have a suffering life, but that's just the modus operandi. But
Mm,
how are you going to suffer? Are you going to suffer aware or unaware?
yeah, that is a very, very important distinction.
Yeah,
That's the key to it, really. It's
that is
like,
the key.
can I learn from this? What am I learning from this?
Yeah,
So is this about me really challenging the belief system I have? Can I look at my belief system and see, does this serve me? Is it true for me? And then you get into truth, and there is no one universal truth. I can tell you my truth, you can tell me your truth, and we'll all have different truths. But what we have to do is we have to find enough people who have a similar idea, and then we've got to figure out, well, how do we create things where it works for most of us? And then you're getting into the collective and a new notion of how we govern ourselves, which is synarchy. Instead of hierarchical systems where we pick somebody to be at the top of the tree, like the king or the czar or whatever.
sure.
We've got to have horizontal leadership, and this is another thing to do with Richard Rudd. He talks about synarchy. I don't think it's his idea originally, but it's you get like-minded people working together, talking to one another, listening to one another, and saying, okay, can we build a consensus around this idea? And it might be if you're in a big group, not everybody will think, oh, that's great. They might think, yeah, okay, I can live with that. I can live with that. I wouldn't do it quite like that, but yeah, I can live with that. And that's what consensus is. It's like taking everybody along with you rather
Sure.
than imposing something on people and having lots of people resisting and undermining things later on because they feel disenfranchised. And this is what our teenagers do. You know, you put them in the education system, nobody listens to them. They're being taught things that they're not interested in. So of course they stick two fingers up and they're disruptive. They're saying this doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So no, no, but it's to, how do I say that? You got to have a set of understanding of how the brain works and how your ego works, and,
Yes.
and all of that stuff. And there's a couple of things that I want to share with you.
Okay.
I really don't want to explain them, but you can think about it, and you can
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about it for about your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And one is that the brain doesn't understand how things happen.
Mm,
It only understands how things happened.
mm, yeah. Yeah. Very
So
important distinction.
if you are in a next experience that looks similar to the previous one, your
Mm.
ego says, I know how this is going to happen, how it happens. But
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
you are
yeah.
acting upon the knowledge of the happening.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
one. So that's one
yeah,
we
yeah.
need to understand. So that means if we understand that, we can really open ourselves up to any kind of experience where we even have trauma in.
Mm, mm, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and then the other thing that triggered when you said there is really no truth, yeah. And for human beings speaking, there is no truth, yeah, but there is a set of universal laws that we can
Mm,
understand
mm,
what how to how how to act and how to be as a human being. Okay, and
yeah,
there's five
yeah.
of them, and if you allow
Yep,
me, I'll name them. Yeah,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
And these universal laws are not for me. Yeah, I got them from an entity that channels, and his name is Bashar.
Great.
Okay, Bashar, and
Okay.
he says you exist. One.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Two. Everything is here and now. There's no
Mm-hmm.
past, no future.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one is the all, and we all are the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have it
Yeah.
from him, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
four, what you put out is what you get back, frequency.
Uh, yeah.
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 And five, everything changes except the first four laws.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Very powerful.
That is the universal law.
Yeah.
And we are part of that.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Because everything is energy. Everything is
Everything.
energetic frequency.
And
So
and and
yeah.
and and he also said, and it made me laugh. He says, "Your existence. You know how I can prove it?" He says, "You try not to exist. Try not to exist right now. And in any form, in any dimension, you will exist because that's the
Yeah.
universal law."
Yes. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, pretty darn
Yeah.
cool, you know?
Yeah. 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 It's getting into real cosmic territory there.
Well,
Yeah.
but you know, you see, we can talk on the around the periphery, but if you don't know the root, yeah,
Yes.
if the root
Yeah.
is not clear, the tree won't grow.
Absolutely. That's
So you got
so
to
true.
understand
And
some sort of a root.
yes. 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 And we all need these kind of underpinning principles by which to live. That's why there are religions, because they want systems that will support them.
Yeah.
Um,
Now,
but I mean,
let me not
all
get
of the
into
religions are
religion.
flawed. Yeah, no, no, that's a whole other topic. We'll do that another time.
No, that's going to Hades. Not interested.
Well, maybe not the esoteric side of most of the faiths. You
Oh,
see, the esoteric side, that's a whole other thing.
oh, absolutely. But that's not religion because the religion itself says that the esoteric things are bullshit. So anyway, you follow what I'm saying?
Excellent, excellent,
So,
excellent.
so is there anything else that you would like to share from your own being that you would like people to know, or you to express anything that you think is on your mind?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I just want to come back to what you just shared with me and say the four agreements from Toltec wisdom's really helpful. And this could be hilarious because sometimes I remember three of them and then I can't remember the fourth. Um, but in Toltec wisdom, um, there were what's called four agreements. One is always speak your truth. Um, but bear in mind that you need to be conscious about when you speak your truth and how you speak your truth, because there's no point speaking your truth with somebody that's not going to listen to you. And it's not about reacting either, right? The second one is never take anything personally. Whoa, sounds simple, doesn't it? Yeah. Try not taking things personally. You feel as if somebody's attacking you, they're picking on you, and of course you go into anger or you go into shame or whatever. That was the second one. Um, right, this is where I'm going to forget them. So always speak your truth, never take things personally. Oh, don't make assumptions. You know, how often do we do that? And sometimes it's really difficult not to do assumptions because either the person doesn't want to actually answer your questions, you know, because they're embarrassed or because they don't want to open up or it's bringing up things for them. So yeah, yes, don't make assumptions. It
Never.
sounds easy, it's very difficult. And this is where I get to the fourth one, and I'm now trying to remember what it is. So speak your truth, don't take things personally. Always, oh, did I say always do your best? Yeah, that's the fourth one. always do your best. But remember, your best is going to vary. If you're not very well, your best could be quite limited, couldn't it? And your best might actually be just caring for yourself.
Right. It's like take action wholeheartedly, meaning that's the best you can do. But if that's
Yeah.
maybe 10% on that day, that's the best
Yeah.
you can do. So yeah,
Yeah. Exactly.
always do it
Exactly.
wholeheartedly. Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I found that those principles I found really helpful. Yeah. No, it's been fantastic talking to you. And I'd say to people, look at Gene Keys. I found that very, very useful, and
Cool.
particularly in terms of accepting my shadows. The key to changing anything that's difficult is accepting it to start with. If you can just, you might not like it, accept it. That's the first
You
stage.
will not
Accept
like
it.
it. You will not
No,
like
no, you
it.
won't. In fact, usually what you do is you deny it. So one of my shadows is vanity. So I'm thinking, vanity, I'm not vain. Me, I'm vain. And then I asked my second wife, am I a bit vain? She said, yeah. I'm thinking, all right, great. And then but beyond vanity, there's discernment. So the vanity is about just my seeing things from my own lens. The discernment is when I begin to realize actually that we all have our own way of perceiving things, and that everybody else's reality is just as valuable as mine. That's why it's worth listening to other people's feedback, because it will tell me things that I notice. Yeah. So yeah, genekeys.com, Richard Rudd, definitely worth looking at. Go and do some biodanza. Any kind of movement's really, really good for you, especially if it's relational movement. And we realize we've all got our own story to tell.
Yeah.
So everybody's got one story, and that's your story. And your story is unique and it's special.
Yeah.
And it could make a difference to other people.
Right. So I would also say, don't be afraid to change your story, because you are changing every second of the day. So you can don't be afraid to change it. Don't be stuck in this one story. I'm an actor and I know how to act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't tell me anything about acting. You know what I'm saying? No.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So it goes back to that crucial idea of know thyself, but actually realize that you are subtly changing all the time. And actually you can change some of your key beliefs at certain points. I'm getting that way with certain attitudes that I have to certain things. So in terms of relationships, I'm beginning to change the way I perceive that. Because I've had two big relationships that have lasted a long time, and I'm wondering, well, might it be interesting to have more relationships?
So what are you changing?
As long as they're respectful. Perhaps my relation to sexuality and my expression of my sexuality. As long as everything is respectful and it's consensual, as mature as a mature man, it's like, that's not something I've done. I didn't have a wild youth. So I don't particularly want to have a wild period. I want one that's respectful, which is in feedback and which is about really open, honest communication about needs and wants. And that's how you build good relationships. You build good relationships by really talking and really listening, and then finding what it is that you might want as a couple. So that's kind of big learning for me. So I'm open to what might be. I'm looking forward to there's so many possibilities, infinite number of possibilities if you remain open and you have an open mind. Yeah.
100%. 100%. Well, great, Noel. That was a long, beautiful, nice, in-depth, flowing with existence talk.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I'm just trying to think, what title would you give this? I've got an idea. 43.
43?
Do you understand that? It's from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and they asked the computer, what's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? And it comes up with the answer 43. So there you go. That's the sort of answers we might get from AI. So don't be asking AI. Our humanity is far more important.
I will just say